Dear viewers, welcome to another episode of Games of Nations. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our content on international geopolitics. Explosive discovery. US intelligence has located a massive controlled substance processing laboratory operated by the Cartel of the Suns inside a Venezuelan military base. The facility produces tons of illicit material every month under the direct protection of generals from Maduro's regime. This is the definitive proof that the Venezuelan armed forces not only facilitate drug trafficking, but run an industrial operation using the state's military infrastructure. The discovery was made possible thanks to a joint operation between the DEA and US military intelligence, which had been tracking suspicious activity at the Fuerte Tiuna military base on the outskirts of Caracas. High-resolution satellite imagery revealed the construction of new buildings within the military perimeter, showing the typical features of processing laboratories, special ventilation systems, chemical storage tanks, and reinforced security. Undercover DEA agents in Venezuela confirmed through local sources that the facility processes coca base from Colombia, refining it into a high-purity final product. The operation is directly overseen by General Cliver Alcalá, one of the top leaders of the Cartel of the Suns and a member of Maduro's inner circle. The lab processes between 5 and 10 tons per month. The laboratory was built about 2 years ago inside a restricted area of the military base, where access is tightly controlled. Only high-ranking officers connected to the Cartel of the Suns are allowed entry. Regular soldiers are kept away and have no knowledge of what happens inside the buildings. This compartmentalization allows the criminal operation to function secretly, even within an active military facility. US intelligence managed to identify the entire supply chain. The coca base is smuggled from Colombia through routes controlled by FARC dissidents who have agreements with the Cartel of the Suns. Shipments cross the Venezuelan border through remote, unsupervised areas. Venezuelan military convoys escort the illicit material to Caracas in military vehicles that cannot be inspected. The chemicals needed for processing are legally imported into Venezuela using falsified documents claiming legitimate industrial use. Chemical precursors such as acetone, hydrochloric acid, and potassium permanganate enter Venezuelan ports in containers officially consigned to fake companies controlled by corrupt military officers. No one questions why the regime imports industrial quantities of these chemicals. Inside the lab, specialized technicians hired from Colombian and Mexican cartels oversee the refinement process. These experts earn tens of thousands of dollars a month to ensure the final product reaches a purity of 90% or higher, among the highest in the international market. The processed material is packaged in waterproof 1-kilogram bricks, marked with the Cartel of the Suns' specific logos, a seal of quality for international buyers. The packages are temporarily stored in military depots before distribution. Using military facilities ensures that the material is never intercepted by authorities, as military property cannot be inspected. International distribution takes multiple routes. Part of the material is transported by homemade submarines departing from the Venezuelan coast toward Central America and Mexico. Another portion is smuggled by aircraft taking off from clandestine airstrips in Venezuela, bound for Honduras, Guatemala, and other transit countries. A third portion is shipped via commercial vessels, hidden in containers alongside legitimate cargo. The profits from this operation are astronomical. US intelligence estimates that the lab generates between $50 and $100 million in monthly revenue for the Cartel of the Suns. Annually, this single facility produces over $500 million in profit. The money is laundered through a complex network of shell companies, offshore banks, and cryptocurrencies before being distributed among the Venezuelan generals involved. General Alcalá, who directs the operation, reports directly to Diosdado Cabello, considered the supreme leader of the Cartel of the Suns and the second most powerful figure in the regime after Maduro. U.S. intelligence has evidence that Maduro himself is aware of the operation and receives a share of the profits. The Venezuelan dictator is not merely a facilitator of drug trafficking, he is an active partner in the criminal enterprise. The discovery of the laboratory provides clear legal justification for potential U.S. military action. The United States is party to international treaties authorizing intervention against drug trafficking when the local government is complicit. Under Maduro, Venezuela is not merely a country where drug trafficking happens. It is a narco-state where the government is the trafficker. This distinction is crucial for the legality of any intervention. The U.S. Department of Justice is preparing new indictments against Maduro and the Cartel of the Suns officers based on the lab's evidence. Federal prosecutors argue that an industrial operation of such scale, under military protection, is only possible with the knowledge and approval of the regime's top leadership. Maduro will be charged with leading a transnational criminal organization. The Pentagon is also using the discovery to justify a possible military plan. Officials argue that a lab inside a military base is a legitimate attack target since it serves criminal rather than national defense purposes. Destroying the lab and arresting the officers involved would be a counter-narcotics operation, not an act of war against a sovereign state. The DEA is pushing for rapid action before the Cartel of the Suns realizes the lab has been identified and relocates its operations. Agents argue that the window of opportunity is limited. If Venezuelan military leaders discover the facility has been compromised, they will dismantle everything and rebuild elsewhere. The time to act, they say, is now, while the element of surprise remains. One option under consideration is a cruise missile strike launched from U.S. warships in the Caribbean. A precision bombing could destroy the laboratory buildings without damaging other parts of the base. This approach would avoid American casualties but eliminate the possibility of capturing personnel and physical evidence. The debate continues over which strategy would be most effective. Inside Venezuela, the revelation has caused a scandal. Military officers not involved in the Cartel of the Suns are outraged that the institution has been turned into a criminal enterprise. Some mid-level officers are reportedly considering desertion or even cooperating with the Americans to expose the full extent of the corruption. The Venezuelan public reacted with a mix of vindication and renewed anger. Citizens had long suspected the regime's involvement in drug trafficking, but concrete evidence of a lab inside a military base shocked many. The opposition is using the discovery to intensify pressure, arguing that the country is ruled by a criminal cartel disguised as a government. In the coming weeks, pressure on Trump to act against the lab will increase dramatically. Lawmakers from both parties are demanding a firm response against state-sponsored narco-trafficking. American public opinion supports decisive action against those who poison the population. The political conditions for a targeted military operation are more favorable than ever. What's clear is that the discovery of this laboratory marks a turning point in the Venezuelan crisis. Maduro's regime can no longer pretend to be a legitimate government when there is proof that its military runs an industrial-scale cocaine laboratory. Venezuela is now officially a narco-state, and narco-states do not deserve the usual protections of sovereignty. A U.S. strike against the lab would not be an invasion. It would be a counter-narcotics operation against a criminal organization. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the button now and turn on the bell, because we'll be following every new development of this explosive discovery. Leave a comment below saying whether you think the United States should strike the lab immediately. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Games of Nations,